6. Alternative titles. So as mentioned, writers Jeffrey Price and Peter S. Seaman were brought on board to write the script in the production's early days. And when the production was back on track, they were brought in again to do rewrites. I mentioned in my first episode that the whole concept of the Cloverleaf Company taking over the streetcar transit, along with its political corruption of that subplot, was based on issues that were taking place during the 1940s, as well as the 1974 movie Chinatown. However, during the writing process, there were other abandoned ideas and subplots. For example, originally it was conceived that either Jessica Rabbit or Baby Herman would turn out to be the movie's true villain, till the character Judge Doom was created. There was also going to be a subplot where it's revealed that Judge Doom had in fact killed Bambi's mum. Then we get the Toon Patrol, otherwise known as the Weasels, which consisted of 5 characters, those being Greasy, Wheezy, Smartass, Stupid, and Psycho. They were originally designed to be like a bizarro version of the 7 dwarfs from Snow White, and there were originally 7 weasels, the other 2 being slimy and sleazy, but they were written out. I found some early designs for Jessica Rabbit, and my first thought was, oh wow, they originally made her look more human. Then I saw a complete shot of her full body of this design, and I then subsequently thought, okay, maybe not. As we all know, there are lots of famous cartoon faces who appear in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, including Dumbo, Betty Boop, as well as Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse as mentioned. However, other well-known popular cartoons of the 40s were also going to appear in the movie, but ultimately didn't. These include Popeye, Felix the Cat, Mighty Mouse, Tom and Jerry, Casper the Friendly Ghost, and even Superman, presumably in his animated Max Fleischer form, among many other potential characters. Speaking of cameos, the really screamy, shouty, irate director that we see at the start of the movie was played by real-life producer Joel Silver, who's produced many movies over the years, including Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, and Predator. And it was also decided to not use the original book's title of Who Censored Roger Rabbit. My guess would be because as the script progressed, it didn't really resemble the book that much anymore. Before settling for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, other titles were considered, including Eddie Goes to Toontown, Murder in Toontown, Trial in Toontown, Trouble in Toontown, and my personal favourite, Dead Toons Don't Pay Bills. I love it. Although I would imagine that a dead anything wouldn't be able to pay bills. And so the movie's title was finally changed to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. You know, my memory actually has memories of Tom and Jerry being in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. When I watched that movie as a kid, I could swear there were scenes with Tom and Jerry somewhere. Honestly, I could have sworn they were in it. Damn, that Mandela effect up to its usual tricks. Number 5, other casting possibilities. So as I mentioned in the first episode, Bill Murray was originally offered the role of Eddie Valiant, but the production couldn't track Murray down, and Tim Curry was offered to play Judge Doom, but it was felt that he was too scary. However, there were other actors considered for the parts. When it came to the Eddie Valiant character, actors who were considered include Harrison Ford, Chevy Chase, Eddie Murphy, Robin Williams, and Sylvester Stallone. It was Spielberg who cast British actor Bob Hoskins as Valiant, because he felt that Hoskins looked like he was from the 1940s, and felt that he had a hopeful, optimistic presence. As for the role of the villainous Judge Doom, many actors were also considered for the part, including Christopher Lee, Roddy McDowall, Sting, and Peter O'Toole. Wow, they really wanted the part to be British, didn't they? However, Christopher Lloyd was cast in the part, as he had previously starred as Doc Brown in Back to the Future, so he already had a working relationship with both Zemeckis and Spielberg. And whenever he was on camera, Lloyd claimed that he never blinked. Ugh, wow. Actor and comedian Charles Fleischer was cast in the title role of Roger Rabbit, and Kathleen Turner voiced Jessica Rabbit. She also previously worked with Zemeckis in Romancing the Stone, and she actually wasn't credited for her voice work for Jessica Rabbit for some reason. It's interesting that they originally wanted British actors to play the bad guy, because the hero, who is American, ended up being played by a Brit, and the villain, who was supposed to be British, ended up being played by an American. They kind of did a bit of a switcheroo there.
What if your toothbrush could do the flossing for you? Waterpik Sonic Fusion lets you brush and floss
Number 4. Budget issues nearly shut the movie down. Despite the fact that the movie is based in Los Angeles, a huge chunk of Who Framed Roger Rabbit wasn't filmed in Hollywood, apart from some scenes. But instead, most of the film was actually shot in England, namely Elstree Studios near London, the same studio where the Star Wars and Indiana Jones movies were filmed. The main reason the crew packed up to film in the UK is because the movie's animation supervisor, Richard Williams, didn't want to work under Disney's thumb, as he didn't like the bureaucratic nature of the company, and thus didn't want to work in LA, where a Disney UK animation facility was set up in London. However, Who Framed Roger Rabbit may have been many wonderful things, but something it definitely was expensive. When you think about it, Who Framed Roger Rabbit was something of an experiment that was doing things never done before in movies, in terms of pushing the capabilities of animation interacting with live-action footage. And so naturally, the budget kept increasing. It went from its intended $30 million to $40 million and then $50 million, where Disney CEO Michael Eisner then got cold feet and considered shutting down the movie's production entirely, despite the fact that he was actually a driving force for getting the production off the ground. Thankfully, there was some common sense at work, as Disney chairman Jeffrey Katzenberg insisted that the show must go on, and that the production of Who Framed Roger Rabbit must continue, for if anything because he was excited about working with Steven Spielberg. That fact alone kept the production alive. Well, I guess if it's the 80s and you want your movie to be a sure hit, success is guaranteed if you have the director of Jaws, E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, that's kind of a given. Number 3. Post-production quirks. So once filming was complete for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, it was over to special effects company Industrial Light and Magic, who were working on adding the animation to the filmed footage, as well as making the animation two-dimensional rather than appearing flat, complete with shadows, rendering and grading, ensuring that this looks like a legit world of both live action and animation, and that the two can interact. The most difficult sequence to animate was Jessica Rabbit singing Why Don't You Do Right at the Incan Paint Club, on the account that her dress had to be animated, but also have flashy sequins. The effect came from the strangest place, a plastic bag, as steel wool was used to scratch little tiny holes in the bag, and thus putting filter light through the bag to come up with the effect. Yeah, it's kind of technical, and I'm not very good at explaining technical things, but, yeah, a plastic bag. The music for Who Framed Roger Rabbit was composed by Alan Silvestri, who was a frequent collaborator with Robert Zemeckis, with the music being conducted and performed in London by the London Symphony Orchestra. The music in the movie was heavily influenced by 1940s music, giving it a jazzy sound which also sounds like 1940s noir. And the more cartoonish sounding music was influenced by the works of Carl W. Stalling, who composed many of the old Looney Tunes cartoons. Speaking of music, going back to the scene where Jessica Rabbit is singing Why Don't You Do Right, the song was not performed by Kathleen Turner, who voiced the character, but was actually sung by Steven Spielberg's wife at the time, Amy Irving. Who Framed Roger Rabbit was going to be released under the Walt Disney banner, but Michael Eisner and Disney chairman Roy Disney, aka Walt Disney's nephew, felt that the movie was a little too naughty with its adult and sexual themes and subject matter, and thus they wanted certain scenes to be cut out to make it cleaner. But Zemeckis didn't want to make these cuts, and Zemeckis did have the last say on how the movie would be cut. So in order to keep everyone happy, Who Framed Roger Rabbit was instead released under the Touchstone Pictures banner, which was a sub-company of Disney which focused more on mature movies for an older audience. And so Michael Eisner was happy, Robert Zemeckis was happy, Mickey Mouse was happy, and I was happy. Yeah. Number 2, the second highest earning movie of 1988. Who Framed Roger Rabbit was released in June 1988 and was an instant hit and got great praise from critics and audiences alike, with many calling it groundbreaking, and Roger Ebert going as far as calling it a breakthrough in craftsmanship. It'll earn over $351 million on its $50 million budget, proving that the budget increase paid off. and it became the second highest earning movie of 1988, behind Rain Man, as well as the 20th highest grossing movie of all time, and it would go on to win 3 Academy Awards. It was also the highest opening for a Disney movie in the UK for its time. I can remember it clearly. The world went crazy for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and in 1988 that rabbit was everywhere and had become a pop cultural phenomenon, one that was here to stay. And Roger Rabbit's theatrical run didn't end there, as several Roger Rabbit shorts were produced and released theatrically with other Disney movies.
This new Charmin Ultra soft smooth tail